Right, we're on.
We went to see something, didn't we?
We did.
Did you enjoy it?
It was good.
We went to Fact to watch the new Ben Affleck directed, Matt Damon starring, Jason Bateman starring movie about Michael Jordan.
Who you don't actually see, which
I thought that was quite clever,
I thought it was really clever. And I remember seeing an interview, Ben Affleck, and he said because Michael Jordan's probably one of the most famous people in the world, so didn't need the representation of him in the film, which I thought was a great way of thinking about it.
You see his back,
and
you see him from the side, and you see little bits, but I don't think does he ever speak? Did you hear his voice?
No, it's really weird. He's there in scenes, but I think once you hear him say something off camera, if that makes sense.
But I really enjoyed it, but it was the soundtrack for me.
Soundtrack's amazing.
From the first minute to the last minute, every song is an absolute banger.
80s banger. Do you know what? There's a couple of Bruce Springsteen was in there. Violet Femme's the one that they used in the opening of Grosse Point Blank.
Yes, I know. I noticed that.
Yes, I was like...
But this comes back to that question of how much did that soundtrack cost? Because that can't have been a cheap soundtrack. That
I think to use a Bruce Springsteen, I think Bruce Springsteen is one of the most expensive, apart from like the Beatles or Pink Floyd.
Do you think there's actors though that can get away with not paying? Do you think that can even happen?
No,
you don't think Affleck can drop the boss an email? I think it's got to happen because of all the people involved.
I think they could get permission, but they couldn't do it without permission, and they'd still have to pay. And plus, don't forget, it's the publishing company that owns the publishing rights to the songs. Not. I know musicians will have a share in it, but I know a lot of all the big stars recently have sold their publishing deals to companies who then, in essence, they're minders of the music and stuff. So I know Neil Young's quite strict on who and who can't use his music.
And Michael Jackson used to own the Beatles, didn't he?
Yeah.
What they should do on movies is just write their own theme tune.
Hello and welcome to Watch It If You Can. My name is Liam.
My name is Dave.
This podcast is all about box sets we've created of our favourite films and TV shows. Some you've seen, some you won't, and others you may never want to watch. However, we can say if you've never seen Lord of the Rings, you shall not pass. All we want to do is chat on about the films and TV shows we love so dearly, and maybe, just maybe, you should watch it if you can. Dave.
Liam.
How are you?
I'm alright, I'm good.
Are you alright? Lovely evening again. Look, now the sun is out. I've noticed we start talking about the weather the last couple of episodes.
I think it's because every time when we started, it was so dull, wasn't it? We were sat in here, we had to put the light on, and now it's like sun's shining, there's kids on skateboards outside, winding the dog up.
Edna, my dog, was barking, so if you do hear any barking in the background, it's Edna. Right, shall we just get cracking? This is Boxset 2, episode 7? I believe it is.
It's 7 now, yeah. Pirates last week was 6, yeah.
Yeah, so we've only got a couple of episodes left in the box set, and then we're on to box set 3 before you know it.
If we get renewed.
If we get renewed.
Fingers crossed.
Well, we're going through that difficult second album stage, aren't we? We'll wait and see what happens. So, Dave, first question, as always, what is it?
Oh, this is one of my favourites of all time. It's the Untouchables. Released in 1987. It's directed by Brian De Palma and written by David Mamet. If you've never seen it, it's set in 1930. It's during Prohibition. It's around famous gangster Al Capone who's running and basically terrorising Chicago. The Bureau of Prohibition agent Elliot Ness, he leads a team to bring Capone down. It features an Irish-American officer called James Malone. They then recruit an Italian-American trainee called George Stone, whose birth name was Giuseppe Petri. And they also recruit an accountant called Oscar Wallace. It is based on historical events, but most of the film is inaccurate or a bit fictional. A bit fictional. Ness's team had very little to do with Capone's tax evasion conviction. Capone apparently told his Chicago gangs to actively avoid killing or even harming Ness, which does happen in the film. Capone apparently did frequently try to bribe them, though, in real life. He decided sort of violence against them would just lead to greater problems. One of the other inaccuracies is the fact that Ness and Capone, they never met in real life, but they do in the film.
Dave, why is it your choice this week?
There's two reasons, and I know we're going to talk about who's in it, but I'd say the two reasons I love this film, and probably one of the reasons why I went to see it at the time, certainly watched it when it was available to watch. Kevin Costner and Sean Connery. Kevin Costner is in probably 3 of my top 10 films of all time. I'm just a huge Costner fan, so that does include Untouchables in there. Connery obviously was Bond, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Mr. Sort of Cool. So I think having those two as your leads would have drawn me in to sort of watch it. I do love a gangster movie, do you?
I love a gangster movie.
I like a gangster movie, and this has definitely got one of the best sort of actors you could ever have as your main gangster. We're going to talk about who's in it, but definitely for me, it was Costner and Connery. Connery in Our House. This probably comes down to our James being such a Queen fan, but Highlander was on constantly in Our House, and Flash Gordon was on because of the Queen soundtrack. But so I as a very young kid, I knew Connery probably from Highlander, maybe even before Bond.
It's a bit of a weird way of thinking. See, I think of Connery, and I do think of Bond. It's without doubt. But you're right. To the 80s generations, which we are, I suppose, Connery in Highlander it was great, and also War of the Roses was a massive film back then. I've never actually seen it, but people always go on, that's a great film.
No, I don't think I've seen that one, no. I mean, I definitely wouldn't have seen this on the cinema at the time because we were just kids in 1987.
Yeah.
But I definitely would have seen it as soon as it came out on VHS, even though it was an 18. I think I definitely would have somehow sneaked it in. But yeah, I think the main reason probably is that. I mean, the irony of kind of the fact that I love it, it nearly wasn't even those people. You know, De Palma initially wanted Don Johnson to be Elliot Ness, which actually wouldn't have been a good...
I would have been really interesting, Don Johnson, yeah. I would like to know why you turned it down.
I don't know. I think sometimes as well, like the scripts for stuff like this, they're so sprawling, aren't they? I imagine it's probably quite hard. But of some other people who nearly got it was Mickey Rourke, Jeff Bridges, William Hurt, Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford would have been good. Michael Douglas as well turned it down. And apparently there was an article where Variety announced that Jack Nicholson was in it, which obviously never happened. But ultimately, I'm glad with the ones that got it. I love all them names there. Don Johnson, Harrison Ford, Michael Douglas especially would have been great. But as a Costner fan, I'm so glad he got it.
Well, a couple of things I wonder is, the producer of Untouchables is Art Linton, who's also the executive producer along with his brother on Yellowstone. So I wonder if this is where the working relationship began with Costner and the Linton brothers, because I think they've worked together quite a lot. Because he was only... he wasn't a big star at the time, Costner, was he? He was still quite new on the block, wasn't he?
Yeah, he'd done a few films, but certainly... I don't think he was the big name, was he? Certainly... I think having Connery and De Niro in there, they were the two bigger names than him by far, weren't they?
Well, did you hear who Brian De Palma, who was the director, originally had Bob Hoskins lined up to play Al Capone because he couldn't get De Niro at the time, but De Niro was his first choice. Then De Niro's film schedule changed, but Bob Hoskins still got paid a 6-figure fee for just being on standby.
Oh, really?
And Brian De Palma was like, it was the best standby I ever had. And I just think Bob Hoskins as Al Capone would have been interesting as well.
Definitely, yeah. I think that's one for one of the spin-off episodes of People Who Were Nearly and stuff, because one of the Wayans brothers was meant to be Robin in the Batman and Robin, apparently got paid something like millions for
Yeah.
actually not ever being in it. Bob Hoskins would have been really good, but again, I think the choices in the end are perfect.
Yeah.
As good as those actors are, especially like Harrison Ford, we're big Harrison Ford fans, but Costner's brilliant in this, and everyone else is.
As we're already talking about the actors, Dave, might as well ask the question, who's in it?
So, surprise, surprise, Kevin Costner, as we
Get
just
shut
mentioned.
the front door.
So he's Elliot Ness. If you don't know Kevin Costner, where have you been living?
Oh, don't even don't even be listening to this podcast if you do not know who Kevin Costner is.
So he's currently John Dutton in Yellowstone. The other films on my list then are my top 10 favourite films of all time. Field of Dreams
Oh, yes.
is definitely in there. No Way Out for me, which came out in 1987 with Gene Hackman. But other films he's sort of famous for: Bull Durham, JFK, the Oliver Stone movie, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yeah.
I know he gets a lot of stick for the accent. I don't think it's that bad, to be honest.
To be fair, Christian Slater's accent is far worse.
If we're going to talk about...
and if we're going for accents, what accent was Morgan Freeman meant to be?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Do you know
Leave
what I mean?
Costner alone.
Yeah.
Um,
And of course, Connery pops up at the end of that as well.
Connery's
King Richard.
King Richard right at the end. So he's an Oscar winner for Dances with Wolves. I really love The Bodyguard.
Oh, I love The Bodyguard.
I think that's really overlooked, The Bodyguard.
I do.
think people think it's a bit of a cheesy love story because Whitney Houston's in it.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant film.
It's a great film.
It's a great action film as well. So my 2 recommendations for Costner. No Way Out, definitely. Because again, I don't think that's a film that's talked about enough. It's a thriller. Gene Hackman, Sean Young's in it. And Let Him Go, which came out only in 2020. That's a really good film.
But I popped one down here, and I've already mentioned it on one of our previous podcasts. The Highwayman, or The Highwaymen, it might be, with him and Woody Harrelson.
I enjoyed that. It was a Netflix movie, wasn't it?
But only because I mentioned it because it was written by John Fusco, who wrote Young Guns.
Another pullback, another deep cut to Young Guns.
Yeah, there you go. So go on, who else is in it?
So James Malone is played by Sean Connery, who was Bond in 7 movies, if you're counting Never Say Never Again, which
wasn't an official canon.
It's not an Eon movie, but we're counting it. He was in Hitchcock's Marley in 1964, and then The Man Who Would Be King in 1975. That's not bad, back to back. Highlander, of course. Indiana Jones and Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Playing Professor Henry Jones, Indiana's dad. He's in The Rock, which, when you think about it now, that's crazy, isn't it? Because it's just a bonkers movie.
Okay, so I'm sure we've spoken about it, and you mentioned he played James Bond 7 times.
Is he Bond? Is that what you're going to ask me?
Is
that character James Bond? I think it is.
I think they purposely played on that a little bit, but not obviously. That's what I love about it, because he implied he was British Secret Service, but it was very shrouded in secrecy, and I just think the producers might have purposely played on that a little bit, but I just think it had so much more to the...
In my head when I watch it, he's an old Bond.
And it would make sense as well. It really would.
But my recommendation, though, is Hunt for Red October, which he did with Alec Baldwin in 1996. That's one of my favourite all-time Connery films.
I've got one more on there. Medicine Man is a really good film.
That is a good film,
yes.
yeah.
And Rising Sun with Wesley Snipes.
I've not seen that for a long time.
Oh, I had that on VHS. That's why it's on my list. And it's one of them films that it's probably not amazing, but I remember having it on VHS and used to watch it.
I might be wrong, but wasn't it just really long? Wasn't it like a good 2.5 hour, 3 hour movie? That sort of rings a bell with me why it wasn't one that I kind of watched over and over. We mentioned Al Capone. He's played by Robert De Niro, nearly played by Bob Hoskins. He's got over 100 films, so we're going to have to spend a little bit of time just going over a couple, because I've got some more of my recommendations, to be honest. We'd be here all day if we did De Niro films. Taxi Driver, obviously, Raging Bull, Deer Hunter, Godfather 2, Goodfellas, Casino. Backdraft, for me, is one of my favourite films. Cape Fear, But I'm going to stop there. I'll let you come in. I'll do one more recommendation, and definitely a film I want to do on a future podcast. Midnight Run.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Midnight Run.
I'm going to say one because it's definitely on my list to do next on the next box set. Heat.
Oh, Heat's amazing.
I've got a couple I picked out for Robert De Niro and I love the parallel between these two. King of Comedy, which is Scorsese's one where he plays the guy who wants to be a talk show host, doesn't he?
Essentially remade as the Joker.
And that's what
How are you gonna say
then
the
he
Joker?
cast him in the Joker as the talk show host. And I just think that's meta. You know, they knew what they were doing when he brought him in the Joker. I just think those two are great. I've also got, I still think Jackie Brown is, I always go on with Jackie Brown is my favourite Tarantino movie. The violence, isn't it? Although it's violent, it's so different, Jackie Brown, because most of the violent scenes almost cuts away and you don't see it. So it's not all about the violence, it's about the story of Jackie Brown. But I think he's brilliant in it because he plays an absolute idiot. And I'm just like, I love a good idiot on film.
Anything with Michael Keaton, I'm already sold on as well.
So I always think people can forget he's in.
So the other two actors that make up Elliot Ness's team, Andy Garcia plays George Stone. He was in Internal Affairs, Godfather 3. He's been in The Simpsons and Frasier.
Yes.
Which seems to be a running theme with some of the actors in our thing. Recently, he was in Wrath of Man. Have you seen that with Jason Statham? That's actually quite a good film, though. My recommendation, though, is from 1989. It was directed by Ridley Scott, starring Michael Douglas, who was nearly in this film. Black Rain.
I've got that on my list. It's a great film. I actually had, and we mentioned it before, Swan Video and Derby Lane. Remember they used to give you, when you took the posters down from the windows?
Have you got a Black Rain poster?
I had a Black Rain poster.
I don't know a lot of people have seen it, I'll be honest. It's not really spoken about, and it
Any
doesn't
film
seem to be on.
It's all about did Michael Douglas seem to go like on a hunt for Yakuza or something like that. It's any like late 80s, early 90s loved Yakuza the movies. There was a bit of a theme about them, wasn't it?
When it's on BBC One at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I think it sort of gets missed. The other character that we mentioned, who is the accountant Oscar Wallace, is played by Charles Martin Smith. He's a character actor. He popped up in things like Fringe. He's in episodes of Ally McBeal, X-Files, and he appeared in a TV show called The Untouchables in 1993. And he was also in a show with Michael Douglas. He was in Streets of San Francisco as well.
The only one I pulled out here, he was in Herbie Goes Bananas.
Was he?
Yeah. I was like, I love a Herbie film.
That's just one from Bank Holiday, isn't it? Bank Holiday Monday, yes. Herbie would be on, wouldn't it? A carry-on film, Herbie on a Bond. Just before we move on, it's written by David Mamet, who wrote Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yes.
You ever seen that again? Another link to
Great film.
Alec Baldwin and Kevin Spacey and some of the other actors we've mentioned. Brian De Palma, who directed this, also did Scarface, did Carlito's Way, but did the first Mission Impossible film as well.
He's had a bit of a funny career, Brian De Palma, because he's made some absolute stinkers in between, and then some amazing films as well. Like he's a very stylized director as well. Like I remember doing, when I was in college years ago, I did media studies. One of my mates in college he was a big Brian De Palma fan, and he's a bit of a magpie director, as in he steals things from other directors and copies them, but still does it in such a good way. He's an amazing director. I'm just gonna pick out, you missed Patricia Clarkson, who played Costner's wife.
Small, yeah. I just went with the main four and components. Have you got some others? You got honourable mention. You got honourables.
I've got honourables. Only because she played Tammy Swanson, wife 1, in Parks and Recreation.
She did, yeah.
So I was like, I love that. And she was also in Green Mile, and again, she was in about 4 episodes of Frasier. So I'm guessing she probably played a girlfriend of Frasier, because like most girlfriends of Frasier's, they're only ever in about 4 or 5 episodes.
She did, yeah. I'm trying to remember the episodes, but she was like I think she was like I can't remember now. Yeah, she definitely was.
Yeah, she's in there. But yeah, I believe Andy Garcia, did you mention he was in Frasier? Yeah, you did, didn't you?
Yeah, it said on IMDb he was, but I've recently rewatched all of Frasier, and I remember her being in it. I do remember bits of it, but I don't remember him at all.
Is he one of the callers?
Yes, that'll be it.
Because there's, yeah.
Yeah,
but quite often they didn't really credit them now because they were, I don't know, but it'd be interesting to know. I think he's probably one of the callers. Okay, Dave, so there's who's in it. Out of all of them, who's your favourite actor?
I've gone with James Malone.
Yeah,
Jimmy,
yeah.
which is
I've got to say, it's mine as well. And I knew we'd both go for it.
I was tempted not to, because I thought it was too obvious. And I do, obviously, saying I was a Costner fan and then not picking Costner was a bit odd. But I've just thought you cannot ignore how good Sean Connery is as Jimmy in this. He was inspired by a real-life FBI agent called Martin J. LaHart, sorry. He was one of the 9 agents known as the original Untouchables. The backstory to the character is that apparently he'd been a policeman for nearly 40 years before he did meet Elliot Ness. And he dies in the movie. Spoilers. We know the spoilers in our episodes. He dies at the age of 68. But there's a backstory I read, and I don't know if this is fan-made or where it's come from, but he's born in Scotland to Irish parents and he emigrated to America. He didn't go to school. He just worked for his dad in a shop in New York. And the reason that he hates Italians in the movie is because the mafia used to extort money from his dad because he owned the shop. And when he was 18, they moved to Chicago and his dad was killed by the mafia. And then that's why he decides to become a policeman. So he is your no-nonsense policeman. But the good thing about him is he's not corrupted. No. He can't be corrupted. He's
uncorruptible.
He's uncorruptible and untouchable,
Yeah.
I mean, he could have just stayed on the beat in the film.
Yeah.
He could easily have just done his job, what he was doing day to day. He could have went on to retirement. But him linking up with Elliot Ness is just the key to why the whole movie works.
I think he's the most important character in it because, for me, the main theme of the film is it tackles the story of it's not black and it's not white. It's far more complicated than that. And I think Brian De Palma really wanted to show, because I think up until this point, any representation of Elliot Ness in TV film had been quite, he's a good guy, fighting the bad guys. But what's the famous line by Sean Connery that he was always like,
I'm going to do that next. Yeah.
Get what I mean? So it's that journey of Elliot doesn't become a bad person, but he realises to fight bad, he has to fight bad. If that makes do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what's fascinating about the film. And I'm going to use a word because I was reading a review about it, and I don't think I've ever used this word in the context of a conversation, but the writers described both De Palma and David Mamet as iconoclasts, because they break down the old tradition of what you think is black and white. It's more complicated than that. And I just wanted to use the word iconoclast in a sentence because I was like, I've never used it before. But I was like, yet they do. He's almost at pains to show how lovely and sweet he is. And then bit by bit. And there's even that scene where they go and raid I think it's the back of the post office, and to go in the bar for the first time. And Sean Connery says, if we go through this door now, there's no going back. And it's like, and then as the film goes on, Costner doesn't turn bad. He just has to change the playing field in order to catch them. And that's why I think that's where the film is just amazing.
Yeah, there's another line, and we're going to talk about this. There's 2 particular lines in the film I think sum up the whole thing that you've just said there around Elliot Ness is seen as that kind of, straight-laced, won't do anything wrong. And he isn't corruptible in the same way that Jimmy's not corruptible, but Jimmy will do what needs to be done. Yeah. And that's the big thing. Without him in the film, it doesn't work, does it? No,
I think he's it's weird how when you picked Martin from Frasier, how he's such an important character.
The anchor, isn't he?
And I think the Jim Malone character is such an important character for Elliot Ness. Although Elliot Ness is the main story, I think without Connery's character, it's it's just another good guy, bad guy story. But yes, it's always like he's the gateway, isn't he?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
he's got all that years of experience and never really had the chance to use it.
Yeah,
For to bring down like the big names in the mafia, which if that backstory has got any sort of shred of truth to it, that is his pull for going to work with Elliot Ness. I think he likes obviously him, he likes that character, but from what his experiences with the mafia, I think he's seen it as an opportunity to do one big thing before he did retire.
Okay, so let's move straight on to what's your favourite scene?
There's too many, so I've had to narrow down because I just talk about the whole film. I just say the opening, the middle, the end. So I've gone with the raid on the horseback is amazing, but more because of the score.
Okay.
The music's amazing for that bit. The speech you mentioned before, though, so it is what Connery says to Costner. It is, he pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. And that's what it comes back to what you were saying, as in Ness would never have fought like that, would he? You've got to go that one step above what the bad guys are going to do. And what was it you said? You've got to be bad to be bad. What was it? Sorry.
To fight the bad. To fight bad, you've got to be bad. Yeah.
And one of the scenes that sort of pushes that is when Malone has got the guy who's already dead and holds him up and puts a gun in his mouth.
Yeah.
And it's
I love that
to make another guy talk. The guy's in the not shack, is it? The little like hut type house. He doesn't know the guy's dead, does he? They need him to talk, so Malone grabs a dead body essentially and makes it look like he's going to shoot him, and he does, doesn't he?
It's bossy. I love it.
It's a great scene, but again, Elliot Ness would never ever have done that.
No, he would, and he didn't have to.
Yeah, that guy would have just got put in handcuffs, taken away, and that would have been the end of it. They wouldn't
It's
have got
not
anything.
a million miles from Guy Pearce and what's his name
In LA Confidential.
Do you know what I mean? It's like
he steps back. Does that scene in LA Confidential where the Bud White throws the guy over
he's
the
hanging him out
balcony?
doing that did literally straight away remind me that
he doesn't stop him, does he?
No,
he doesn't
no.
agree with it, but he doesn't stop him either.
And that's when we go into the grey area.
Yeah.
And in life, grey area is when it gets more interesting.
But that is not my favourite scene.
Okay.
My favourite scene, again, film's been out for years, so everyone should have seen it. It is Malone's death scene. And when I say his death scene, I mean the actual when he's dying. So the whole scene is brilliant. He's in his house, the guy sneaks in to try and kill him, and it turns out Jimmy's double back, hasn't he? And he actually chases him out of the house, and you think it's over, and he gets shot as he's on the door. But it's just played brilliantly, because when Costner comes into the house, you think Malone's dead, don't you? He's lying, he's face down, there's blood everywhere. So it's the actual death scene for me when Ness turns up, and he turns him over, and you think he's reaching for the cross on the chain. You think it's a bit of a religious thing, don't you? He's got, he's trying to grab it, and Costner gives him it, and he throws it away, and he's like, "What are you after?" And it's just this piece of paper, and it's the train timetable, because Capone's bookkeeper's coming in, and he grabs it and he gives it to him. And again, this is one of my other favourite lines in the movie. He says to him, "What are you prepared to do?"
I think that "what are you prepared to do" is the tagline for the film. What are you prepared to do? The
music, the acting, the setting.
No, I would reel that back even more to when you say it's the scene, but the bit where you see him in his flat and he walks down, and the camera is positioned as the initial assassin,
watching him,
and it follows him because along, that's Hitchcock. That's no same about Brian De Palma. He's a magpie. That's pure Hitchcock, because it follows him outside and then goes through the window, and it's just the planning of that scene is something else.
And then it is sort of a twist that he doesn't get killed by him, does he? You've actually think he chases him out, and his death is actually him standing on the doorstep, isn't it? By the other guy who kills him. So it's a genius scene, but just those few, whatever it is, 30, 45 seconds of him on the floor dying with Elliot Ness over him, I think is the best scene in the whole film. Did you have a different one?
I've got a couple. we've already. I had the Jim Malone scene. I just dying scene. I just think it's unbelievable. For me, if you say to me Untouchables straight away, I think of the dinner table scene with all Al Capone's men, and he walks around and then just the violence of him attacking the guy with the baseball bat in front of them all is just startling. It never leaves me, that scene, and to me that is just De Niro at his most best. It's a great scene. One other scene I'm going to come to is only because, again, and I've mentioned it before, this magpie element, that's my word so far, is the end scene with the pram coming down the stairs. So there's De Palma completely ripped it off there's a Russian film from 1925 called Battleship Potemkin. Okay, it's one of the most famous. Whenever you do film studies, it's one of the most famous films. There's a couple of films when you do film studies you need to watch. One of them is film made in 1914, something like that, called Birth of a Nation. Bit racist now, but another one was Battleship Potemkin, made in 1925, and the other one is Citizen Kane. Now, why these are the three most important films ever made is because it was the revolutionary use of editing. They basically, up until that point, storytelling was quite linear with a camera, like just filming, as in replicating going to theatre. But what these three films did was, once you start cutting things up, edit them. So that scene in The Untouchables where the pram's coming down, in real life that pram would have just went but when you cut it up with, like, it goes down a step, it cuts to Costner, it cuts to the bad guys, it cuts to the mum, two more steps, the baby's in the pram, back to the mum, back to Costner, back to Garcia, back to the gangster, and literally what something that would take 10 seconds, if that, in reality is 60, 70, 80 seconds long, but it's just, and
it's the tension building.
That's exactly what it is. It builds tension by it. So I think it's such an important scene. It's one of the most famous scenes in cinema history. And I know for a fact Brian De Palma was having a little nod and a wink, because who do you see in virtually the scene just before and the scene in the shooting? But sailors.
Yes, you do.
So obviously Battleship Potemkin's about the battleship that attacks a port.
So that's why they walk past them.
He's done it. What he does so well, he steals things, but it's like when a musician robs someone else's riff. It's like, because I love it, and so you're just gonna make it better as well.
Yeah, it's all films, isn't it? All films you can pick scenes and go, that feels very similar to something, and all filmmakers borrow from each other.
But if you ever see this scene from Battleship Potemkin, you will know exactly what Brian De Palma was doing. It's obvious, and then when you see the fact he has the sailors in there, I'm like, oh mate, you're taking the piss out of us now, but I love you. So I just think that's brilliant. Okay, I think we've almost mentioned it, but what about the music?
So the soundtrack is by Ennio Morricone, famous for the Sergio Leone spaghetti westerns like The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Also worked on Django Unchained for Tarantino. The main theme is one of the greatest themes ever for me. It's just unbelievable. The track called Al Capone, which is on the soundtrack, is just perfect for all the scenes with De Niro. The death theme when Malone's shot and killed that we mentioned before, that's amazing. On the Rooftops is another track, when Ness is chasing the bad guy and he's chasing through the court. But I challenge you to put Victorious on, which is the name on the tracks. Just put it on. It's only just over 2 minutes long. Blast it out, and I guarantee, just listening to it, you'll just feel amazing. You'll feel uplifting. Put it on in your car. Put it on somewhere. It's called Victorious, and that track is just...
I'll go one further. Go and get on Spotify and put Greatest Hits of Ennio Morricone on, and it'll be the 70 minutes of just gold. I've got a couple of his albums, and I love my music a lot. I'm a big fan. I just, never mind soundtracks, I think he's one of the best songwriters. He's just, because he has such an identifiable style. You're 2 bars into a song and you know it's his song. And that's when you know. It's like everyone takes the piss out of Coldplay. You hear a Coldplay song, within seconds you know it's Coldplay. And he's got that same thing. I think he's an absolute genius. So if anyone's listening, listen to it if you can.
The soundtrack's amazing.
It's brilliant, yeah. All right then, so the question, now this is going to be interesting for me, judging by what you've just mentioned of your favourite scene, but what would you change?
This one's quite easy though, to be honest. As much as I love the film from start to finish, all the actors in it, all the performances, the script, the music, I think it's Niti, isn't it, if you pronounce it?
Yeah.
It's his death scene. So this is one of the bad guys. He's the guy who kills Malone, basically.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant scene. So he's hanging off the side of the... Elliot Ness chased him up and he's tried to jump over and he's hanging off the side of the building. Elliot Ness pulls him up after kind of he's saying to him, don't just stand there, arrest me. And he does, because Elliot Ness is the good guy, isn't he? Pulls him up, he's about to arrest him. Then he starts saying about Al Malone, he died like a pig, and he starts to wind him up. And you do think Elliot Ness is going to walk away, and he throws him off the side of the building, which is that scene is amazing. That's brilliant. That comes back to what are you willing to do, isn't it? And he knows this guy, if he arrests him, he's probably going to get off.
Yeah.
We've already just seen someone escape from the court. He throws him off. But what would change? It's the close-up special effects on that scene. They're just awful. And I get the fact that this is 1987, but I just don't think it needs it at all. So what we see him getting thrown off. We see Costner looking sort of down at him. And the guy's screaming, and Costner says, did he sound anything like that? But it's got really bad special effects. It's obviously filmed in some sort of blue screen. Yeah. And then they cut up to the face. And then we see a long shot and we see him hit the car. I'd just scrap it all. I think we just needed to see...
Come off the build.
Just Costner throw him off and say, did he sound anything like that? Maybe the long shot of him falling.
Yeah.
And then the bit where he hits the car. But
I love the bit where he goes through the roof of the car.
Oh, when he hits the car.
And I think that was it. That was it, yeah.
But there's just the bit where his arms and legs are flailing. And it just looks terrible. It looks like that. It does look like those early 80s effects where they were just finding the feet. Yeah. And trying... And I give him total credit for trying stuff new, of going, we've never really seen probably someone fall from a building. Superman had not long sort of been out, man. That time a man can fly, and I just think it's the one bit that takes me out of the movie. I just go, I hate their effects on that scene. Why even bother?
It's a bit similar for me, but what scene does my head in? The way they charge him on a horse is the Canadian border bridge, because
I love that scene.
Logistically,
it doesn't have to make sense.
It's all over the place, and I'll tell you why. So they're in. There's the river.
It's the Canadian border.
There's the bridge with the Canadian border. Now, any of our listeners out there, I'm showing Dave with my hands, but obviously you just have to take me with him. I'm explaining this. So there's the bridge.
Right hand side's the bridge.
Here's the bank. Now, the bad guys come and park on this end of the bridge, and they all get out. Now they're in a hut here on this side of the bank. The bit that annoys me, they walk out the hut where they can fucking see them, because it's not that far away. They sneak around to the back of the hut, but you've had to go past them to get your horses, unhook your horses, get on them, charge. But then there's a shot from the other side where they're charging at them. It's literally 20 yards away from the hut. They could have just ran out the hut and shot them. It pisses me. It just doesn't get it. It doesn't make sense. And also, the time it takes them to cross the field. Now, if I was trying to ambush someone, they would have been behind them, because also they come from the side. So if I was the bad guys, I would have just ran off that way. But they didn't. They didn't see these 4 horses coming from the side. No,
but you get the theme. But you've just touched upon, and really, it's quite funny how I maybe didn't pick that scene, and maybe it's my Costner blindness that I just accept the fact that makes sense. I do hate in films and TV shows that scene where you'll see like a group of people walking along, and then suddenly they'll go, oh, there it is, and it's like a mountain.
Yeah.
Or even in Jurassic Park, it annoys me a little bit. You know, when they first turn up in the car and they pull up and they're like, oh, it's all a Bronchiosaurus. It's like, you're telling me you couldn't see that from a mile away. You've had to get to 20 feet away to go, oh, there they are. And there's a few movies definitely I've watched recently.
I just think logistically that scene is all, it's the bit that they have to come out. The door of the hut faces the road. So if they came out the hut, snuck around the hut to one side of the horses, at that point they could have ran across the field.
Yeah.
Because it's that shot from the other way that does me in. They come running across the field, it goes that way. And you're like, the hut's only 20 yards away. It took them longer to go round the hut on side of horses than it was to cross the field to get to them. I'm just like, it's... And also, it just doesn't make any sense because the horses from the Canadian come all charging in. They're all firing guns. There's about 8 gangsters with Tommy guns. No one gets shot.
That's an 18 thing though, isn't it?
Yeah, no,
that is
apart
pure
from Andy
18.
Garcia's character, who was like, yeah, I'm alright. But it just... I don't know. I just think it's so logistically, it's all over the place.
You better not watch the new John Wick then, because there's so much gunfire.
I know, but like, I don't know. I just think it's a poorly executed scene, and like,
it's just played for dramatic effect, isn't it? That's all it is. It's set up to look dramatic. The music's dramatic. I do like that scene. I didn't see the problem, but I do have that problem with like they've been walking for miles and then go, there's the city.
Yeah, it was like, oh,
what?
Yeah. So the new segment we've got for Boxset 2 is the mystery box. What we've done this time is I've set a load of questions for Dave, which he doesn't know until he puts his hand in the box and picks one. So Dave, put your hand in the box. Let's get a question.
I feel like we need music on this bit, like, or some sort of mysterious thing. Right, I'm gonna go for this one. Feels like a good one. Go on.
Okay.
I haven't looked.
Okay. So, change the director of the film, and why and how would it make a difference?
Oh, okay. So if you're gonna change the director, you've got to change the film almost completely. I think to be fair, you can't just say, well, I'm just going to slot another, because you could just say, I'm going to give it to Coppola.
Yeah,
couldn't you? I'm going to give Francis Ford Coppola could easily have directed Untouchables.
Yeah,
but I think he would have done it almost beat for beat. So I'm going to go with. So let's go with someone completely different, someone who would change quite a bit. Then I think Michael Mann.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Do you like that?
That would be interesting. Now, I bet you Michael Mann's shootout scene at the hut would make more sense. That's all amazing. I'm saying.
So Michael Mann really would have played on the characters, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
He really would have played on that Elliot Ness. I'm thinking of Heat now.
Yeah.
Is he just going to make Heat, but in 1930s Prohibition era? It would be, wouldn't it? You would have Elliot Ness and Capone.
Now you've said that, actually...
Are you impressed by that?
The comparisons between this and Heat are there. It's that, what are you prepared to do to get the bad guy? Do you know what I mean? Because Al Pacino in Heat is almost...
Oh, he breaks the rules, doesn't he?
He's absolutely batshit crazy. Whereas... Neil McCauley, the De Niro character, is so controlled and regimented. It's again, it's breaking down the general rules of who the cops are and who the robbers are. Okay, so Michael Mann, I'm gonna go completely bonkers just because he's a big fan. If Rob Reiner directed Untouchables.
You just wanted to get Rob Reiner in because we love Rob Reiner.
I just
would
think
it be more comedic or
no? I think it would be
because Few Good Men has got jokes in it.
Yeah,
as serious as the story, as serious how the story is, and the courtroom scenes. It's actually got. I think he would add an element of comedy.
I think he'd focus a lot more on the human relationship side, Rob Reiner. I I think for a start, you'd probably get more between Elliot Ness and his wife and the family makeup, and
which you don't get a lot of.
yeah, it's not really there at all. I just think he would go in for the human emotions of it, and I think actually we would know more about James Malloy's background if Rob Reiner had directed it. I think it would be there somehow. We'd get it out.
Yeah, there'd be more dialogue focused on that side, probably, wouldn't they? But
yeah,
either of them, I think. I'd love to see a Michael Mann version as equally as I'd love to see Rob Reiner one. So
and this is what I love about what the directors do. The whole film is in their take, is in their vision of it,
and that would be two totally different versions of that film, wouldn't it?
And do you know what I love as well? You could give two directors the same script, and he would make different films.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, Dave, what about the impact the films had?
So it only had a budget of 25 million and went on to gross 106.2 million, which we know in the 80s, anything over 100 million, always considered a big hit. Time magazine ranked it as one of the best films of 1987. It was Oscar nominated for Best Supporting Actor, which Connery won, deservedly so. It was nominated for Best Art Direction, Costume Design and Score, but not Best Film, not Best Director. Costner didn't get anything. The biggest issue was The Last Emperor picked up 9 awards that year.
Which is a great film.
There was I did look at the Oscars for that year, and there's some interesting films, but how The Untouchables is not in the nomination for Best Film, it's beyond me now. It makes no sense. One of the things just to touch upon with the impression was, according to the producer Art Linson, they did polls that were conducted for the film, and it showed that approximately 50% of the audience were women.
It's interesting.
Yeah, what he said was, ordinarily a violent film attracts predominantly men, but this is also touching, about redemption and relationships, and because of that, audience tend to forgive the excess when it comes to violence.
Which again taps into what the actual film's about. Is like what are you prepared to do to make things better? I think impact wise, the fact that Connery got an Oscar for it, he didn't really get much award. Like Connery's career, he didn't really. I don't think he actually got hardly any nominations or anything. Considering the career he had,
I think it was his only Oscar, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was his only Oscar nomination, possibly.
Probably was, yeah.
All right then, Dave. Where can the listener watch The Untouchables?
One option is, if people just want to come to my house, I've got it on DVD.
Are you sure you want to put that out there?
I'm putting it out there because...
Do you know what you've just done? You've just announced a party on MySpace.
The reason I say that is because you can't get it for free, unfortunately. So I've seen it for £2.49, which is pretty much a bargain. So you can get it on YouTube, Google Play and Amazon Prime. You are going to have to pay, but £2.49, absolutely.
See, I would say... because I've just got the subscription to Paramount Plus, because there's a few things I want to watch on there, and it's on there.
Is it on there?
Yeah, it's a Paramount film, yeah.
Oh, I've got Paramount Plus. I could have watched it on there.
I was scrolling
I
through.
generally didn't know
literally
that.
scrolling through it the other week. And
Party's cancelled.
Well, actually, yeah, no one's invited. Get your own Paramount Plus pass. So basically, I went on there and I was looking at the film. They've actually got some really good films on Paramount Plus. They've got like a good back catalogue. I was actually watching Mean Girls.
All the film.
And I saw Untouchables and I knew we'd have to watch it for this week, so I was like, I watched on this. So yeah, so Paramount Plus is a good one. So if you like this, what else would you like? I'm gonna chuck straight in is Casino. We mentioned the other week, I think, and for one particular reason, well, apart from it's like a gangster story, but the killing scene of Nicky, Joe Pesci's character's brother, with the battered with the baseball bat and buried is the same. Oh my God, the same as when De Niro beats them up with the baseball bat. It's just something utterly violent, and the crack of a baseball bat hitting someone's head, that noise it makes, obviously not in real life, I don't know, but so I picked that one.
Yeah,
I've mentioned this film multiple times already, but it's obvious what Bronx Tale.
You mentioned Boxset before.
Yeah,
I mean, another De Niro link, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think that fits in with this one. And I think Boardwalk Empire, for the obvious
What a show.
Prohibition era feel to it, and also to see a completely different portrayal of Al Capone by Stephen Graham, like the worlds apart.
And Stephen Graham's absolutely brilliant in it, isn't he?
Yes.
Michael Shannon,
Yes.
I think that's his best role as well. I know everyone obviously talks about Steve Buscemi, and I think Stephen Graham, because he was so good. Michael Shannon, especially in that series, is definitely worth a watch.
So they're my ones.
Okay, I've got two themes then. I've got general recommendations. Okay. Films that, if you like Untouchables, you'll definitely like this. LA Confidential, which we've covered on the podcast.
Definitely.
Go back and listen to our LA Confidential episode. You'll love that if you love this film. Carlito's Way.
Yeah.
Scarface.
Both De Palma films, anyway.
I've got one I don't think you've seen, Gangster Squad.
No.
With Ryan Gosling.
No.
That's really good. Check it out. I was surprised by that. I didn't go see that in the cinema. I waited for it to come out and then went, I wish I'd watched it in the cinema. I went with Highwayman as well, which you mentioned earlier, the Kevin Costner film with Woody Harrelson, which is on Netflix. A couple of more modern ones. So Copland for one, with Sylvester Stallone. I think if you like Untouchables like that. Many Saints of Newark. The Sopranos prequel.
Excellent shout, yeah.
That's a great film, that, if you haven't seen it. And obviously I went with Heath as well.
Yeah.
De Niro again. De Niro obviously was in 30 Rock in season 5, episode 12, so you should watch 30 Rock.
Well done for getting 30 Rock in, Dave. I was expecting it.
So my other topic then, and we're going to need a spoiler warning here, so we need some sort of klaxon, some sort of bell.
And we're going to I'm going to be honest here, as me and Dave, we prepared for this because you mentioned it, said, so...
I didn't want you to not come prepared, because it's not a mystery question.
No.
So this one then, you can fast forward after I say this if you want.
If you don't want.
This is because of my favourite scene being when Jimmy dies. This is films or TV shows with a tragic death scene. So we might talk about things that you don't know here. So it's up to you. Stay tuned. But the first one is... and it's not a secret, this one, Tony Stark dying in Endgame.
Yes.
I think that is a tragic death scene. And I think we all kind of had a feeling someone was going to die in Endgame because, you know, a lot of those...
Well, it's called the Endgame.
It's called the Endgame for one. But a lot of those characters were coming, or actors, sorry, were coming to the end of the contracts, weren't they? It was sort of obvious that Endgame was going to have a big pivotal moment, and I think we all thought probably Cap was gonna go. At one point watching it, I thought Thor was gonna get killed when Thanos is stamping on his head, and then obviously Tony with the I can't watch it without.
Do you know it's really like the second, third time I watched it, it got me even more than the first time I watched it.
Because we've been with him for. Yeah. Was it 10 years at that point?
Yeah. Without doubt. It's a monumental moment in cinematic history when Tony Stark was killed.
Bambi's mother in Bambi.
Yeah.
Devastating. Pull back to one of the podcasts that we've done before. Probably won't hit as much with you, but when Wash dies in Serenity, because I've been watching Firefly for however many years before the film came out. Firefly.
I'm trying to even remember who
oh my God. So Wash is the pilot.
Oh yes,
and he crash lands the ship, and the big spike comes through and kills him. If you're a Firefly fan, that was devastating. And I do remember being sitting and just going, I cannot believe they've just... Because it sort of sets up a sequel, Serenity, as well, doesn't it? And you know, like half of those characters aren't going to be in the sequel. I know it never happened, but watching Serenity, oh God, I'm like a leaf on the wind. He's just said it. Oh, Wolverine in Logan.
I've got that on my list as well.
Yeah,
like, only because, and it's really weird. I was actually talking to someone about this only the other day because you and me went to see this in the pictures. and you and me bawled our fucking eyes out at the end of this film. And I remember everyone just got up and left, and we were a mess. And I was like, was no one else crying? To be fair, we were waiting for the end credits.
Post-credits scene.
That never happened.
No, it was
but to be fair, we did need to compose ourselves. We were both crying our eyes out.
Yeah, I don't know if now we know Hugh Jackman's coming back for Deadpool 3, so I don't know if that's going to have an impact on that, and is he just going to be playing a different Wolverine from a multiverse? I am a little bit worried of the impact it's going to have on the end of Logan.
Yeah.
Because that is a great movie. It's got its faults. I don't think it's a perfect movie.
No.
But it's a really good movie. And I think
it's...
his death scene's really sad. And again, it comes back to Robert Downey Jr.'s death scene. We'd been with that character for 10 years, so it was devastating. We knew it was going to be the last film, but I don't think we quite knew how he was going to die and what was going to happen. Mufasa in The Lion King.
I've got a Lion King on my list as well, yeah.
Ellie in Up.
Got Ellie on Up as well.
The first 10 minutes of Up. I mean, that's the most perfect 10 minutes of any open of any movie.
Yeah.
A couple of others I've got then. Han Solo in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why it's devastating. Not so much the fact that he's killed by his son and Chewie's there and Chewie sees it. It's the fact that that was the first of that trilogy, and you knew right there and then we were never ever getting another scene with Han, Luke and Leia now.
Yeah.
And now once you realise, you're not thinking, I don't think a lot of viewers were probably thinking that at the time, but I was. When he walks up to him and you think he's turned Ben Solo and they're going to suddenly hug and go home and he kills him. My first thought was, well, that's it now. He's not going to see Luke.
Yeah.
And that was more devastating than anything, and I didn't agree with the scene, to be honest.
No,
I think it's devastating.
I thought it was a little bit ham-fisted the way he dealt with it all. I thought it was a little bit just put in for shock value. I don't think he really thought. And to be fair, I was going to say I don't think he thought it through. But the whole epic fail of that Star Wars trilogy is nothing was thought through. They were just three great films. I can sit and watch every one of them 3 films individually, and I think I really enjoyed it. But as a trilogy,
probably for a different podcast. But
as a trilogy, it's complete. It's not thought through.
I do think what it is Harrison Ford wanted to die in the original trilogy, so I think he's made a deal. I think he has said, "I'll come back, but you have to kill me off." Because imagine spending 30, 40 years of your life being asked, "Are you going to come back for Star Wars? Are you going to come back for Star Wars?" And I think he said, "I'll come back, but kill me off." And I'll agree to that. But they should have had the scene with Han, Luke and Leia before that death scene.
Maybe, yeah.
So, John Coffey, Green Mile.
Yes.
The execution scene is just devastating.
It is,
devastating. And I've got one more. It's Jojo's mum in Jojo Rabbit. Oh. And it's all off camera.
It's
we
the
don't
shoes.
See it.
It just reminded me, Dave, it's the shoes.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson plays the mum, and we know she's not home, and he's just in the street and you see the shoes. It's and that's a death scene that you don't even see the death scene. It's just a tragic death. Did you have any others?
I've got a couple. Marley and me. I just think when you're talking about death scenes, it's like William Dafoe in Platoon.
Oh yeah,
where he's trying to get back, and it's just the most epic death scene of cinema. I picked Game of Thrones, but pick which ones you want to pick out of Game of Thrones. I've got, just because of the sort of full circle of it, both Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey's characters both die in it. I think are both quite memorable, and now they've both gone on to do The Last of Us. But I think out of all the deaths, the Red Wedding
is shocking.
I've never been more dumbstruck from a piece of cinema or TV than when that episode finished. I remember walking around the house and just shocked. I couldn't speak.
I'm guessing you haven't read the books, because I haven't, because the people who I knew read the books knew A bit like people.
Yeah,
who
yeah,
played,
yeah. No, I had
a bit
read
like
the
people who
books.
played Last of Us knew
Yeah.
the ending of that
Yeah.
series because they pretty much stuck to it. So in work, I knew people who were like waiting for the Red Wedding episode to come just to see how it was going to be played out. Whereas for everyone else, you know, the likes of myself and you, we were, just awestruck, weren't we?
Another death I don't think you can forget in Game of Thrones is Hodor.
Yeah,
I just think for the
Hodor's
whole backstory, and it just at that moment where you realise that he's saying hold the door
yeah,
is one of just utter heartbreak. Is just, it's, I think that alone is one of the greatest pieces of writing on Game of Thrones. Just the way the whole story for Hodor is just genius.
Not going to mention Ned's.
No, because I think it's the obvious one. It's shocking because they killed off the biggest star.
Yeah.
But I think everyone...
Sean Bean dies and everything, so
yeah, he's an expert dyer.
It was a shock, but when you put it into perspective, Sean Bean always dies.
Yes,
so
of course.
we should have seen it coming, shouldn't we?
And he dies really well. He does a good
No one
death.
dies better, yeah.
I went with The Wire. There's a couple of there. Now, there's Omar, because he gets shot by the little kid, because it was so unexpected. After all that, he gets shot. And if you remember, Sherrod was Bubbles' friend who basically took the overdose. Remember, because Bubbles was getting bullied and he put the poison, and that was the turning point in Bubbles' life. I just think that, and if you think of The Wire, there's so many deaths, and but that one always stands out for me. And then The Sopranos, Adriana and Christopher.
Do you know what? I'm looking at my notes and I've got a line missing. Because I had Hodor and Adriana's was another one.
You can't split the both of them. I know that there's time, the time spans, but it's still, you think of Sopranos and that's what you think about is both them episodes. And my last one is, and I'm not going to spoil this one because you haven't seen it yet, but 1983.
Is the death scene?
Don't
tell me. A few.
God.
I've got one more just before we move on, which I thought you might have had. City of God. When it's Handsome Ned, isn't it?
Yes.
When the kid
actually
shoots him. Yeah. He's sort of worked his way into the gang, hasn't he?
Yeah. Forgot about that.
That's a shocking death scene as well. Yeah. And one of our episodes you need to revisit.
And also just the one where little Z gets the other kid to shoot the runs. He actually kills one. That's it. That was one of the scenes we spoke about. But oh well. So there you go. That was The Untouchables. That was Dave's choice this week. And maybe, just maybe, you should watch it if you can. This was a Watch It If You Can production, executive produced by Kenny, our Val's lad, on Wake Experience.
Don't forget to follow, rate and share from wherever you get your podcasts.